Hey, what's up you guys? I'm Sarah Labrat. As you have already seen at the title of this video, you know that I'm going to try and write a query letter today. My book is not yet ready to be queried, but there is a query letter writing contest that's going on and ending, I believe, next week, where if you are one of the top 3 people chosen, even if your book is not ready, you can get your query letter basically reviewed and get feedback from an actual agent on your query letter. And so this seems like too good of an opportunity for me to pass up, and it seems like an interesting exercise as I'm doing the developmental edits to help me make sure that I know what my book is about. And so I know nothing about query letter writing, and so I will be researching how to do that and attempting to write one in this video. There was an article linked in the email that I got about this contest to an article called The Complete Guide to Query Letters on Jane Friedman's blog. And so I clicked over to that, and now I'm going to read through this and just see what her advice is. So right off the bat, the way that this article starts is with a before you query section. Novelists should have a finished and polished manuscript before they begin querying. I understand that. That is not my current situation. This is me just trying my hand at it because I have never written a query letter before, and I kind of want to try it to potentially get feedback on it before I actually have to be sending this out to potential agents. If it's not clear, the current book that I'm working on, which is my project entitled DE currently, which is the original abbreviated title, I am hoping to take that down the traditional publishing route. However, in the future, I might choose to self-publish because some of my other ideas do not seem as marketable to a traditional audience or traditional publishing route. Typically, how traditional querying works is you query for an agent, and then the agent helps you get publishers and editors. And how you try to land an agent is by sending them a query letter, and this website lists 4 elements of every query letter. Okay, so here's what I need to include. The housekeeping, aka your book's genre, category, word count, title, and subtitle. Well, don't have a title, don't have an official word count. Honestly, don't even know what age range my book is right now. It's somewhere between new adult and adult. The second is the hook, the description of your story, and the most critical query element. 100 to 200 words is sufficient for most works. 3, a bio note, something about yourself, usually 50 to 100 words. Okay, interesting. And then a thank you and closing, which should be about a sentence. In its entirety, apparently a query should not run more than 1 page, single-spaced, and somewhere between 200 to 400 words, which in my mind, about 500 words single-spaced should be able to fill a page. And so maybe the point is to keep it like short and concise. This article is also saying that if you don't have referrals or conference meetings to fall back on, you should start with the story as the lead for the query letter. So that means that we have a starting place. This also suggests identifying what you're selling, and this article will be linked down below if you guys want to go look at it. But basically there are 3 points to identifying what you're selling as listed in this article, and that is the title, the word count, and the genre. All right, so that's good. Right after title, it says everyone knows your book title is tentative, so you don't have to explicitly state the title is tentative. That's good because I do not currently have a title, but I have one in mind that I might put at the top. This says that about 80,000 words is the industry standard for a debut novel. When I finished the rough draft for my project DE, which is what I'm attempting to write a query letter for, it was 87,000 words, but in the act of rewriting it and doing the developmental edits on that, it's probably going to be about 100, if not 100,000 plus. The next thing the article covers is describing the story or the hook that should make the agent want to request your pages. And it looks like we need to talk about who my main character is, what the conflict they're going through is, and what choices they must make. Or there's another formula that's the what does the character want, why does he want it, and what keeps him from getting it. The first one is more applicable to my story. However, I do not have one main character. I have 3, and they're all equally important to the plot, but in very different ways. I do think that 2 of them are more important than the third, but as the 3 of them, it makes sense. And so this article seems to be written for a single perspective book, and I'm not really sure how to deal with that yet. It does say that if your hook runs longer than 200 words, you might be going into too much detail. If your hook reveals the ending of the book, it shouldn't. Apparently that's just for synopsises, which is good because I did not know the difference between this hook and synopsis, which is very bad. And then it also asks, does your hook mention more than 3 characters? If so, you might be going into too much detail because you only want to stick to the main characters. Or actually, I was paraphrasing, but as this says, usually you only need to mention the protagonist, a romantic interest or sidekick, and the antagonist. In the bio section, it does say that you can mention your writing cred, and that could be past published books or even self-published books if that is what you've done in the past. It says that that should not affect how an agent views you if you have previously self-published books, which I have not, but I thought that was interesting. But it does get to writing cred, and it says that mentioning any writing related degrees you have, any major professional writing organizations you belong to, and possibly any major events, retreats, workshops you've attended to help you develop your career as a writer. That's cool. I never thought I was going to be able to talk about my creative writing degree or the fact that I studied abroad with New York University's Writers in Paris in any way other than a fun way, because it's not like going and getting an MBA where it's like, oh, that means a pay raise. I did not think that that could get me any more published. But it is interesting that this says that you can include that because it's talking about how you've worked on developing your craft, essentially. Without further ado, I think that it is time for me to try my hand at writing a query letter. Okay, so with the concept of starting with the story first, that requires me knowing what my book is actually about. You would think I would because I'm in the developmental edits, but because it took me 260,000 words to figure out where the first book in the series fell, this is going to be a little complicated. I'm going to have to pull out my outline. Something that I forgot to mention was that none of my characters have names, and so I need to figure that out before I submit this. At the very least, it's nice that I do not need to name every single character, but I do need to name the 3 main ones that are mentioned. You know, for a rough draft, that's not half bad. I have only put the part about the story so far. I have not put the title or the fact that this is the first of a series or the word count or anything about me on there yet, but the summary of the story does take up 222 words, which is a little bit over the recommended 200 cap, but I do think that everything is in there that needs to be in there. I have not mentioned magic, and so I believe I need to add that in and drop something else out, although I'm going to finish writing this and including the stuff about my bio before I go through and try to edit this. My query letter now sits at 330 words after I included my bio, the title, the tentative title of the story, the genre, and the word count. The part I'm struggling with now is in this query letter, it says this story will appeal to readers of blank in a similar style of blank. And so I feel like this is the point where I'm supposed to be. This is essentially a mashup of like this story and this story, but like my problem is that I don't know what that is. This is something that's bothered me for a really long time because like in an elevator pitch, when you're pitching your story, you need to be able to say, this is the title of my book, this is how long it is, it's like this and like this, but I don't know what that is. There's dragons and there's magic, there's darkness and mind control, but I don't know what books I need to say to put those 2 things together, because I need something that has magic and I need something that has dragons, but these dragons are not hunted or ridden, and so that rules out like Aragon. And magic, this is not something like Harry Potter. I know that there are so many more magical stories than that, but that's like, of course, the first one that pops into my head. And so I do have a bunch of dragon books on that shelf right there, which I might have to go look at to see if any of those would work to be one of my 2 that I'm like, my book is kind of like these. Yeah, I'm gonna go do that. Okay, new problem. The ones that I had in mind that are on that shelf don't really apply as much as I thought they did. I need something that incorporates, there's also like a godlike aspect, and so this is hard. This is really hard. Okay, or maybe this should not include it's kind of like these 2 things, because I'm seeing a lot of example query letters online that do not include those 2 things, and I think that that makes it stand more on its own. But if I'm going to do that, then I just have to make sure that the story part, aka the hook, is strong enough to carry it on its own without comparing it to other things. which is really freaking hard to do when I have less than 200 words to work with, but my story is 87,000, but probably closer to like 95,000 words long, and the rough draft of the series was 260,000 words. That's hard, but I have a rough draft now, and I'm very excited about that. I need to, I think, give this a rest and then come back to it maybe tomorrow or something. And I still have probably about a week until this needs to be turned in if I want to submit this for the contest. And so thankfully, I think I have a little bit of time to rest on it, make sure that this says what I wanted to say. Of course, that will involve editing it tomorrow and in the future days, and make sure that this includes enough information about the story without spoiling it and not saying the ending, which I actually just thought of something else that I should put in here because that's important. But all that's doing is adding words past the 200 word limit. All in all though, I do think that this is a solid rough draft of a query letter. I am excited that I finally did this step because I have been very nervous about this for a long time, but after I wrote it down, it actually seems pretty doable despite me being afraid of it for a while. So that's really exciting. I might end up getting feedback on a potential query letter. That would be really cool. So this is just for fun. I am not querying yet. And even if I don't win this contest and I'm not one of the top 3 people chosen, I will then have a rough draft of a query letter to be working with when I do decide to start querying agents. I will be hopefully later this year, but I will be doing a video about that after Camp Nano about sort of my next steps after I'm done developmental editing, when I'm planning on sending to betas, when I'm planning on trying to get it really concise, and then maybe start querying. Hopefully I'll be for the end of the year, but I will make a future video about that. Alright, that's it for me today, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel because it really supports my channel and it tells YouTube that you enjoyed the video and that other people might too. And if you want to leave a comment down below and tell me a little bit about what your story is about, please do. I respond to every single comment, and I post videos twice a week, so I'll see you guys next time with another video. Bye!